I think one of the problems we see is that ERP, cloud ERP, and AI are delivering a sort of 1-2 punch to the market in terms of if I'm an organization that wants to leverage AI, I'm being told by the industry that in order to get all this magic of AI, even though it's not magical to your point, but I'm being sold this bill of goods of AI being a magical tool that'll solve all my problems. And by the way, the only way you can get AI is if you move all your applications to our newest cloud solution, like S/4HANA or D365
and
or whatever.
There's a great scene in The Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio is in the restaurant with Matthew McConaughey. And Matthew McConaughey is going, it's a fugazi, it's a way of taking money out of the client's pocket and putting it in your pocket. It doesn't exist. And that's what AI is at the moment. It's a way of getting money out of private equity and money out of clients for stuff that doesn't exist, or at least doesn't provide significant amounts of business value. So if you're going to do anything with AI, be really, really, really clear how, you start with a business problem that AI really clearly solves for this amount of money. And if you've got that value chain really well defined, well, then maybe it's worth a punt. But at the moment, I wouldn't invest 20 quid in it. I just think it's valueless.
Yeah, definitely not long term. Plus, you don't know how many, to your point earlier, you don't know how many of these AI providers are going to be around in 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah, and the ones that are good will emerge.
Yeah.
It's like, is it likely that I will be the next Amazon because I bet on an AI firm at the moment? Well, possibly, but I haven't seen any examples of anything where investing in that technology is the next big thing. It's all a bit promising and it's all a bit interesting, but it's not knocking my socks off in terms of revolution. I mean, even when Amazon started, nobody could ever have predicted that a small bookseller with a rather nifty app would turn out to run virtually half the world's, infrastructure applications and digital ID and all the rest of it. I mean, that's just like was completely not predicted. So,
Yeah, good. Very true. Speaking of the future and predictions, what do you see as the future for tier 1 consulting firms?
I'm a lot less skeptical than most. There's a few things happening at the moment, right? AI is not replacing tier 1 consulting firms. That is absolute rubbish. No matter what certain people who want to drum up that particular narrative are aiming for. That's not what I deal with. The tier 1s a lot. I was with Deloitte a few days ago. I was with Accenture last week, and there is a definite slowdown in consulting firms recruiting out of universities, and that's got nothing to do with AI producing brilliant test strategies. It's complete noise. It's because consulting is going through its usual cycle of boom and bust, and it's going through a slow growth cycle, and so it's not recruiting, and it's also laying a lot of people off. It's done that 20 times before. It'll do it 20 times again. The other thing is that there are two classes of people in tier 1 firms. I mean, not in firms like ours, but in tier 1 firms, you have the careerists and then you have the exceptionals. And the careerists are people who are on the bench. They get put into a client and they do effectively the job that the client could do if the client had the money, the capacity and resources. And they tend to be a bit better than average. So if you get a, quote, functional consultant from Deloitte or from Accenture or from KPMG, they will be 20% better than if you got one off the contractor market, but that's about it, right? But they will move between tier 1 firms or most probably they will move into the client at some point, or even out of the industry. Then there are the exceptionals, and the exceptionals are the ones who fast track their way through the tier ones and get to be director or partner, associate partner really quickly. And that's because they're exceptional. And those are the people you want on your engagement. You don't want the fodder and the bench. You want the exceptionals, because the exceptionals add value, and they are not going to be replaced by AI, because they have experience, they have people skills, they have ability to communicate, they have a whole raft of attributes and knowledge that is not going to get replaced by AI. And they are able to bring a concept to a client and say, this is what we think, this is our point of view, this is what we think you should do, and it will land. And McKinsey's been doing that, and Boston Consulting, and Deloitte, and Accenture, and KPMG have been, and PwC. All of those have that tier of people, and they do it very well. And those people are not going anywhere. They might have less people underneath them, but that's because, you know, that they can subcontract some of that that what I call the fodder, the you know, the careerists. But the requirement for strong, knowledgeable advice is going to be there forever. So in fact, in many respects, I see tier one firms becoming more like third stage, which is, you know, we have exceptional people, but we only have exceptional people. We don't have careerists, because our value is in giving that really, really, really high quality advice and guidance and getting it right first time. And AI doesn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Andy on LinkedIn has a question or a comment that I'm curious to know if it pertains to the EU or to Europe and UK as well. But Andy says tier one firms are now realizing they don't have the skills they need, so they're on a major acquisition drive. For example, Accenture bought a litany of Oracle Fusion tier 2 SIs here in the US. Is that something you're seeing in Europe as well?
No, but not quite for that reason. I mean, Europe's economic cycle is not great at the moment. The Ukraine situation has been quite a drag on Europe. So there's quite a significant amount of economic uncertainty. In the UK, certainly also we have significantly higher taxes, and that's reducing investment. So, there's even been a couple of new consulting firms that call themselves tier one start up, and they've rapidly disappeared without a trace. So what we think we're seeing more in the UK, certainly, and in Europe, is a consolidation. And although they're getting rid of some of the lower tiers, they're not buying firms. A lot of them are continuing to reinforce their Indian offshore operations, Philippines, and India. But I haven't certainly seen significant activity from any of the partners buying out tier two firms. It's just not a model that I think is currently in vogue in the UK at the moment,
right,
or in Europe.
Yeah.